millionaire owner right there, does he look happy? No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. You know why? Because that score right there is 33-16. Now, don't think I'm not on it. I rewinded that. It's actually worse. It was 41-16, the final score. Did you see it? Did you see it? Huh? Just when I thought that y'all could have messed up even more, y'all made my Thanksgiving. You Cowboy fans out there, it's a tough night, isn't it? It's a tough night. Had a tough year, but the bottom line is you all were talking smack. You thought you were going to be in first place after the night, didn't you? You thought you was going to be in first place. You thought that, hey, Thanksgiving, we're going to be in first place, but guess what? No can do. Those Cowboys now are 3-8 on mine, even lower than we expected. To Alex Smith and the Washington football team that don't even have a name. All I got to say is this. How about the Cowboys on Thanksgiving yet again? Bye, y'all.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I'm MJ Acosta-Ruiz. This is NFL Total Access. Thanks for being with us tonight. We will get to Washington and Dallas and all of your highlights, of course. But first, we have some breaking news. Lamar Jackson, quarterback for the Ravens, has tested positive for COVID-19. This just coming into our NFL Total Access newsroom. We will bring in now Ian Rappaport, who has more on this story, has been over it since it broke. Ian, what more can you tell us about Lamar Jackson testing positive for COVID-19?
Well, MJ, several Ravens players over the past couple days have tested positive for COVID-19. The tally as of this morning was 8. That included several staff members as well as the Baltimore Ravens try to contain a coronavirus outbreak in their facility. I am now told by several sources that Lamar Jackson, the starting quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens, the former MVP, has tested positive for COVID-19, headed to the COVID-19 reserve list, which obviously for the Baltimore Ravens, who as of right now are still scheduled to play the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday, would mean they would need a new quarterback. And Robert Griffin III is their backup quarterback. He has obviously plenty of starting experience. He is someone who is a veteran, and he will now be called upon for emergency duty. And for the Baltimore Ravens, it has been a difficult and trying week as they attempt to control this virus inside their facility. They have disciplined a strength and conditioning coach for failure to report symptoms and for not always wearing a mask. This has been what their week has been about, and now it gets punctuated by their star quarterback, Lamar Jackson, testing positive for COVID-19.
In a very complicated, a very trying week for sure. As you mentioned, I want to bring in David Carr and Michael Robinson. I mean, we've been talking about this matchup. It was moved from today to Sunday. David, now them losing their starting QB because he tested positive for COVID-19.
Yeah, this is a huge hit because there is not another offense in the entire league that is more closely tied to their quarterback. This offense runs through Lamar Jackson. Everything that they do is off of his ability to make dynamic plays with his feet. And then the play action comes, and then the throws come. But it is all from Greg Roman being brought in, John Harbaugh, what he was trying to build here. It was all tied to number 8 right there that you see on that screen. So for him not to be there, yes, you have veteran guys in the back. You get Robert Griffin can come in and he can do his thing, but there's no one that's as dynamic. So this offense is going to look vastly different with Robert Griffin jogging out there. And then it also raises the question, how many more of those positives are going to be guys that are crucial to this football team having success on the field? So it's not just Lamar Jackson. There's other components that are in there. They've had the injuries on the offensive line. They're already going through a whole bunch of struggles. Now they're hit with this. it's something that everyone's having to deal with. The entire league's dealing with it. The entire Raiders defense was on the list last week, so those guys didn't get to practice. This affects guys during the course of their week, and they're used to being in a rhythm, in expecting, knowing what to expect day in and day out. If that's not the case, they're creatures of habit. It can really affect you. So they got a lot of work to do to try and replace that guy, because he's obviously league MVP, and again, the entire offense goes through him. So big shoes to fill.
Well, and this also raises several questions, guys, including, does Lamar Jackson have symptoms? If he does not have symptoms, he could be back a minimum of 5 days. If he does have symptoms, you're looking at 10 days and another game missed. That is one thing, and so it's not just, okay, he's out for Sunday's game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, a huge game, obviously, for the reeling Baltimore Ravens, but how many more games is he out? And I think that's one thing, and it is not a perfect situation for the Ravens, far from it, but so much of 2020 has been about just making do with what you have, trying to adjust, trying to adapt, trying to win games amid a pandemic. And, this is a battle-tested, tough Baltimore Ravens team. They have been handed a tough one this week, and they have no choice but to somehow come out and play and try to make the best of it.
Yeah, Ian, it's going to be a little bit more pressure on that defense. Defense definitely is going to have to step up and put a stop to opposing offenses. But I do think having RG3 in the fold and having him be your backup quarterback, you don't have to totally abandon the offense. RG3 does have some of the same movement ability now. He's not a runner like Lamar Jackson is. He's a guy who can throw the football. He's a passer who has running ability, which is a little bit different. So he's not the type of runner that Lamar Jackson is. So I wouldn't run him on all of the same type of plays. But Ian, before we let you get out of here, I got to ask you this. What are you hearing from the Baltimore Ravens? Is there possibly any way that they could call Colin Kaepernick? I know that could be far-fetched, but I can't think of another quarterback on the streets right now that can step in and run that Greg Roman offense that has some wheels as a runner to be able to run the same offense so that the play isn't dropped off that much. Are you hearing anything about Colin Kaepernick in this particular conversation?
I'm really not, and one of the issues here, it's not just do the Baltimore Ravens have interest in Colin Kaepernick. Remember, in the past they have. The most recent past, that's many years ago. I have not heard anything recently. But even if they did want to bring in Colin Kaepernick, you're talking at absolute minimum 6 days. So he would not be, remember, because the player has to pass through COVID-19 protocol, so he would not be in by this game, might be in somehow by the next game, and then at that point, theoretically, Lamar Jackson would be back. It's just to bring in a player so quickly during this COVID-19 season is difficult, and it certainly changes the way teams acquire players.
And guys, Rob, to your point about the difference between Lamar Jackson and Robert Griffin III there, the run ability can't even be compared. So, David, what, in your eyes, would be the expectation for RG3 stepping in here for Lamar Jackson?
You know what's funny about that, MJ? In that situation for RG3, having watched him over the last couple of years, when he steps in and he plays, he actually plays pretty well. And I've been in that situation where you're a starting quarterback, then you're relegated to a backup role, and you want that opportunity. And I guarantee you, Robert Griffin, although he's upset that Lamar's not going to be able to be there, they're probably boys, they're tight, they sit in the same quarterback room. He's ready for the challenge. Robert will play good football. I really believe that. He'll go in there. He'll make the throws that he has to make. And Rob alluded to it. He's a good passer. He can throw the football. He's seen a lot of defenses. He understands that. And I still think that he has enough leg ability, enough athletic ability to where if he has to pull it down and run, he can still utilize some of those runs. I think he'll play actually really well. I'm excited to see Robert get a chance to go out there and play again.
Well, and
to be honest, David, go ahead, Ian. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's talk about the near future. Let's talk about there's still, as of now, a game on Sunday. And yeah, I mean, we've been talking so much about the Baltimore Ravens and not having Lamar Jackson. What about the Steelers side of it? I mean, they're undefeated, and I know the players are frustrated, taking to social media, very upset that the game was postponed. Well, now they face the prospects of not having one of the best players in football on the field. I mean, for the Steelers, who all of a sudden, being undefeated is legitimately possible, and this game just got a lot easier for them. I mean, I hate to think about it that way, but there is a football aspect of it, and that's it. And so for the Steelers, I mean, they went from being frustrated that the game was pushed to Sunday to now facing a backup quarterback and several other backups along the way. Not a terrible situation just from a strictly football perspective for the Steelers.
Yeah, and then on top of that, who knows what this offense is going to look like with RG3. And I think that's a little bit of a disadvantage to the Pittsburgh Steelers preparing for this game, because what if the Baltimore Ravens come out and they decide that they want to throw the football? Because I truly believe that RG3 has a little bit more diversity in his throwing game, meaning he can throw a little bit more passes or a little bit more route combinations than I think Lamar Jackson can at this point in his career. But again, Ian, before we let you go, so let's be clear. The plan is for RG3 to start on Sunday?
That's the only possible plan for the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, yes, that is the plan. He's the backup quarterback. But think about this. So you have Lamar Jackson headed to the COVID-19 reserve list. You have Robert Griffin III, who is their backup. And then they have a third-string quarterback, Trace McSorley, but he's also on the COVID-19 reserve list. He was placed there last week. So the only healthy quarterbacks that the Ravens have on the roster are RG3, who we know, and then Tyler Huntley. So, yeah, it is going to be RG3. As of now, again, the game is still on, and if it happens on Sunday as scheduled, it is certainly a difficult situation for Baltimore.
I'll get to what Ian mentioned right there about the Steelers side of it, right? Because as you're talking about this, M-Rob, them preparing for Lamar Jackson, what he can do with his legs. And not to say that they would sort of let up a little bit, because we know Mike Tomlin doesn't play these games, but some